Adam Levine, who is the lead singer of Maroon 5, says that he has been sold a fake Maserati by a classic car dealer. Now he wants his Ferraris back that he gave in exchange for that car. I'm Kevin Kneupper. I'm an attorney at Kneupper and Covey, and I want to talk to y'all today about this lawsuit that was filed in California by Adam Levine's trust, which is a sort of an entity that owns a lot of his assets, apparently, against a classic car dealer that alleges that Adam was basically sold a forged car, that he bought a Maserati that was supposed to be one of 25 extremely rare Maseratis from the 1970s, and that the car that he bought was not actually one of those 25. That there's actually another one running around out there that is the real one that it supposedly is based on the VIN number, and that the VIN number was fake. That there's other details of the car that were faked to try to sell him this classic car, which then he says he was urged to not try to resell it and to just sort of keep it because of the value, but that he was actually being defrauded. It's a very interesting lawsuit, and I'm going to walk you through some of the ways that rich people try to protect their money, which this gets into a little bit because the lawsuit is between this trust that Adam Levine has and the classic car dealer, and then also some of the painful things to me as a consumer attorney that I saw in this lawsuit that based on doing a trust, he actually lost access to a number of some of the extremely strong laws in California that protect someone who buys a car or really buys anything from anyone if they're an individual person. And I'll talk to you a little bit as well about what if you get into a situation where you buy a car that's been faked, that's where there's been something deceptive about it. You may not ever be buying a rare 1 in 25 1970s Maserati for $1 million or so, which is what this one was. But the law in general protects you from frauds like this, and what Adam Levine's lawsuit lays out are some of the ways that you can protect yourself if you ever get rooked by a car dealer. Okay, so this is the lawsuit that Adam Levine filed, but you can see it's not actually Adam Levine at the top. If you look up there where it says plaintiff, it says Adam Levine Living Trust Plaintiff versus Rick Cole, an individual defendant. So Rick Cole is the guy who Adam Levine is suing, who he says, hey, this is the guy who sold me this fake Maserati. Um, the Adam Levine Living Trust is an entity. So it's if you don't know at all what trusts are, you've almost everyone's heard of them, right? Because you've heard people say, "Oh, you're a trust fund kid," or that he's living off a trust fund in TV shows or something, where someone has rich parents and they have a trust, and probably people, you kind of know what it is, but maybe not really. Um, a trust is like it is an entity, kind of like a corporation is an entity, right? So Walmart is a corporation. It's not a person. It's just this fiction that we made up, like, oh, hey, this is Walmart now. This here's the documents that say how Walmart works. Here's the CEO of Walmart. Here's now the board of directors of Walmart, the owners of Walmart. Now they decide what happens, and they can sort of run this company. A trust is similar to that in that sense. It is something that you make up. You're like, okay, here's this trust now. It is, and the word comes from holding something in trust. Is this phrase like you're holding an asset um, in trust? Just means I'm holding it for you in the position of sort of someone who's supposed to be trustworthy, who's supposed to just you know do this for your benefit, not for mine. I have duties to you because I'm holding on to this asset as kind of a caretaker. So a trust in general is a place you put your assets so that it is a different legal entity than you. And that can have a lot of different benefits. So, the reasons people create these trusts in general could be to avoid tax liability because now that it's not you, they don't pay income tax. If the trust makes money, they often pay less taxes if you structure it right. A trust also can avoid inheritance tax entirely because it depends on the type, and this one's a little bit unique here, but in general, trusts. They don't die when you do, right? So just like Walmart doesn't die when its CEO dies, and so there's no death, so there's no inheritance tax. And then another benefit of trust that can happen sometimes is avoiding lawsuits. So uh, the trust is because it's not you, it may or may not be able to be sued to have the money taken out if you personally do something. Um, those are real complex rules in terms of can the trust actually, if you put money into it, is it safe from a lawsuit or not? If you get the money from a fraud or something like that, or you're doing something that's allegedly fraudulent, then you have a lot of problems with that because people would say you're constructing this whole trust as just a scheme to avoid paying liability, and courts are perfectly able to undo that and get your money right back out of the trust if they think that you put it in there trying to hide it from a lawsuit. Now, if the lawsuit is something like, say, a car accident, or you accidentally commit manslaughter, driving your car and veer off and hit somebody, but you created your trust 20 years ago, then it probably was not part of a plan to defraud the guy you accidentally hit with your car. Those can get real complex, but that's the general idea: is you make the trust to try to benefit yourself for taxes, to get benefits whenever you die, and for your children or for charities if you want to give the money to a charity. Um, that's how rich people use this all the time. If you have millions of dollars, these are a very good tool to try to, it can't hurt. And what this trust is called a living trust. So a living trust is something where it's being held, your assets get put into this sort of entity, but you can still use them. So as long as you're alive, that's why they call it a living trust. So anything this trust owns, Adam Levine can use as long as he's alive. He can drive the cars. He can, if it has a house, he can live in the house. And then when he dies, the reason people create this type of trust is the assets then have to be distributed out to whoever he named as the what's called the beneficiary, who the trust benefits. That could be, if you got kids, it could be kids. If you just like a charity, you could give it to some random charity. You could give it to really just anybody. But the benefits of this, you kind of get some of those benefits of, this is not my asset anymore, it's the trust's asset. It's different from some of the trusts that protect you from lawsuits sometimes, because this type of trust is what's called revocable. So you can revoke or take back your assets or dissolve the trust. The trusts where people want to try to protect their assets the most are called irrevocable, where you actually give up total control of your assets to people that you designate as the trustees, who then manage it for your benefit and then someone else's benefit later. So all real complex, but that's why you're not seeing Adam Levine as the actual person on this lawsuit. Now we can go through now what the lawsuit is actually saying about this fake Maserati and why it was allegedly faked. Okay, now I want to walk you through what this lawsuit, what Adam Levine is alleging happened to him whenever he tried to buy this extremely rare Maserati. And all these are still allegations. None of this has been proven. I understand Rick Cole, he made a filing saying he wants a little extension to try to answer this complaint. So we'll find out from him what he's saying later on. But this is just what Adam has said in the opening document in the lawsuit. So you can see down here it says it arises out of a serious fraud perpetrated on the trust by Cole, a classic car dealer, regarding a purported 1971 Maserati Ghibli 4.9 liter Spyder. And he gives the exact VIN number here of the car. And you can see it's got one of the significant things here is, like it'll turn out a little later on, is this 1241. And you can see here they call it the Spyder the 1241 because that's one of the, like, the number they're using to sort of refer to these extremely rare cars. And the reason it's rare is because there's only 25 of these Spyders that have the 4.9 liter engine, which means that it's something where you can go, oh, hey, I've got one of these. There's only 25 of them. I'm one of the 25 guys that has this specific kind of Spyder, and in the classic car community, there's now you've got some cachet for your car. It makes it more valuable, makes it harder for other people to, like, there's only 25, so that's just how things make more money in collectible type stuff. So this says that basically they buy this car, they think that it's extremely valuable, extremely rare, but when they decide at some point Adam wants to resell the car, and that's something that car collectors they'll buy, sell cars, get tired of one, go try a new one. When they do that, they learn that actually the company they were trying to sell it to had actually owned the real one before. So that company, this Autosport company, they go to them, and Autosport's like, we actually have owned and sold the actual 1241. This is not it. And so they get into that. They start looking into it. They find out that they say that Cole, who's this car dealer, knows that this thing is not real, and they explain that a little more below. So here's some of the general stuff in this part of the lawsuit. They're just alleging the kind of the facts that they need to get it into California, because there's jurisdictional issues. You got to say, oh, hey, okay, so even though he's in Texas, he's selling the car into California. This is quoting his sort of car dealership, and Cole is this dealer. He's an auctioneer. He sold 20,000 automobiles to a bunch of famous people: the Sinatras, Steve McQueen, Robin Williams, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Sylvester Stallone. Many of these people, if you're younger, I'm sure the Zoomers don't know who the Sinatras and Dean Martin and all these people, or you may know, but the list is very old because he's sort of, if you look at his website, he's a little bit. I think his heyday was a long time ago, but he's still selling these classic cars, and Adam Levine is a little bit newer celebrity on this list. You can see it sort of goes through some more jurisdictional stuff, and now it's getting to the actual kind of meat of this, the facts of the case. It says that Cole actually came to Adam Levine's trust saying, "Hey, I've got this great classic car. I've got an authentic, Maserati 4.9 liter Spyder," and it says that that basically like the identity is like of the car is clear, it's not disputable, and then this Cole guy proposes trading Adam Levine's trust to Ferraris from the trust, which are worth about $1 million. In exchange for Cole giving them this extremely rare Maserati Spyder and also paying $100,000, which would make the vehicle worth $850,000 based on sort of the price difference. And so the trust is saying, and Adam Levine is saying, that Cole actually knew that this vehicle was not the 1241, and that there was this cloud over which one of these two cars is the real 1241. And the reason that Adam Levine is saying this is because the vehicle actually went up for auction before in 2015. So that's before it was sold to Adam Levine, but it got withdrawn because of controversy about the chassis number. And they get into some extreme details where you kind of, to authenticate things like this, it's actually kind of impressive how much in detail they need to know about these cars and the history of these cars to be able to know which one's real and which one's not. The people who investigate this type of stuff, you have to be real obsessive over this, and you can see that they're obsessing, extremely obsessive details, but that's worth, when it's $1 million at stake, you've got to look at the details. And so the fonts were different on the stamping style from the contemporaneous stamping style that was used in the 70s. There were stars on them on the VIN number on the chassis that weren't the correct type of stars. The S on what normally there was an S, I guess, after the number 49, but it's supposed to be before they're not using Maserati fonts. And then so these are all kind of real technical things that if you're an expert in this, you're going to be able to find those out. And it says that they're alleging that Cole or someone working for him tried to actually cover this up because at some point they misstamped an S on the chassis next to the VIN number, and that the fact of even it being withdrawn from this auction is a serious deal because there appears to have been like a new stamp applied before it got sold, but after the auction, which would suggest that if it's true and if what they're alleging is true, that Cole was involved in that auction as well, then that would mean that someone associated with him had done this new stamp, which is kind of would be tampering if true, and it says that there was a certificate that was faked as well, and that also that Cole like basically made some changes to the car after taking it back temporarily, and was repeatedly discouraging the Adam Levine Trust from selling the vehicle and saying that you need to keep it. And the trust is saying, well, the reason that you did that was because you knew we would find out the truth about this. Now, it's not clear why they didn't sort of investigate or check the car before, or why Adam Levine's Trust didn't know that. It may just be that they didn't have kind of expertise. They just trusted him. You can't always trust car dealers. I know that may be a surprise. Oh, you can't trust a used car dealer. Well, maybe in the classic car world, it's sort of a little more prestigious. So you would think, oh, you can always trust people doing this stuff. But when $1 million is at stake, you gotta check. Now, here's the part of this that at least is, I don't know that the attorneys really, I don't think that, definitely the litigation attorneys didn't make a mistake here, and I don't even know if the trust attorneys made a mistake, but it was painful looking at this because I think they made at least a choice to get benefits of the trust. But I'm a consumer attorney, so I do litigation over cars all the time. We've got a couple hundred car lawsuits going on right now, or arbitrations, I guess, but we definitely have a ton of lawsuits that address issues like this, not for $1 million cars, but for regular people who are buying a car and find out the car was a dud, a lemon, or they don't get the title, or things like that. This lawsuit, Adam Levine, because he wasn't suing as an individual, lost the protection of basically all the consumer protection laws in California that cover car sales in general. So you can see he has what are called causes of action. Those are just legal theories that a person is asserting for why they can recover money from someone. And this is negligent misrepresentation. That's a type of fraud where you don't do it on purpose, but you sort of accidentally make a statement that's false without really checking like you should. Intentional misrepresentation, same thing. That's what you call fraud. It's also called fraud as a cause of action. It just means I knew that I was lying. and they plead either or. As a plaintiff, you're allowed to, because you don't know the full facts as a plaintiff when you're sort of looking at the outside at what someone did. So you're allowed to do something called pleading in the alternative, and that means, okay, so maybe he did know, maybe he didn't, but either way, he did something wrong that I can recover from, because it can't both be true that he accidentally did it and that he intentionally did it, but you don't know for sure what happened, so you get to do the either or. Then this is fraudulent concealment, which is a type of fraud where you sort of hide something from someone or try to make sure they can't find it out. Mutual mistake that he alleges is a way to revoke a contract if you both, again, it's in the alternative. Let's say we both had a good faith mistake. Well, then we should give me back my Ferraris. Is kind of what Adam Levine is saying. And then the last one is breach of warranty, which is when you sell a car. You've probably heard buying a warranty, like when you go to the store, they'll try to sell you a warranty. Warranty is a promise that you will sort of, a good or service that you sell will meet up to a certain level of characteristics or quality. That's a real complex area of law, but it's one of the things where, where as a consumer lawyer, I'm like, oh no. Why am I like, oh no? I'm oh no because California has real strong consumer laws. That one of them is the Song-Beverly Act, which is a warranty act, which for individual consumers can get you your attorney's fees if you show that there was a breach of warranty. And then the other one is the CLRA, Consumer Legal Remedies Act, which again, you have to be a person. You can't be a trust. And so because this is a trust, it can't use that statute, which gets you punitive damages. It gets you also attorney's fees. And the reason those attorney's fees are so important, so generally when you file a lawsuit in most states for most types of causes of action, you can't, you both pay your own attorney's fees. So if you win, you just have sunk money into your own attorney's fees. Like let's say it costs him $200,000 to do this lawsuit to the end, which is not unreasonable. I've seen people, some attorneys, depends how much of your money the attorneys are wasting is the honest answer. Some attorneys just love billing in circles. There's a lot of law firms that have gotten in trouble for that. But 200,000 would not be unreasonable to do this to the end, and maybe even some more. But the car costs $1 million or 950,000, so you're out a large chunk of this. If you have the protection of these consumer statutes, you now have the attorney's fees coming to you if you win as well, but only for the consumer. So it's one way. The business that sells you the car can't get their attorney's fees, but you get yours if you win. And this was designed on purpose to help people, not for $1 million Maserati and Ferrari transactions, but for $10,000 Kia transactions. Because think about it, if it costs $200,000 to do a lawsuit over a car, like the fact of it being a Kia versus a Maserati does not change how much the attorney has to spend. It's a little more because this is sort of so complex of an authentication issue, but if you're suing over a Kia, you could still pay $50,000, $100,000 in attorney's fees to get that done. No one would ever do that for a $10,000 Kia. So the law is set up so that to protect consumers, because the frauds like this are actually really, really common. I don't know anything about this Cole guy. I don't know whether I know nothing about 1970s Maseratis, honestly, and whether this is a real one, whether it's not. But car dealers cheat people a lot. I can say that from the number of calls I get. We get way more than we can ever handle. People calling us in. There is a lot of fraud going on, and that's the reason why they shifted these attorney's fees, not just for cars, but for any kind of thing that you could buy. The volume of fraud is so huge that the legislature wants people to get attorneys to represent them. This isn't true in every state. California is real strong. There's other states that have strong laws, like Texas is real good. There's some states that are not as good, but it's very common for states to shift the attorney's fees like that. Adam unfortunately can't get that, but he's still probably, given how much these cars are worth, would be able to recover a lot if these allegations are true. And we'll see, like, kind of what happens with this. Whether the trust might settle. It's common that cases like this settle, but it could get into a sort of serious. You start thinking about the repercussions of this, and if one of these cars has been faked, how many out there are faked? And if I was owning a classic car, I would be checking my VIN numbers. I would be having someone go look at the stuff, because those things start circulating in the system, and then who knows whether your car that you think is worth $1 million is actually worth $50,000 or $30,000. So we'll see what happens.